Hello, everyone. Welcome to Across the Park podcast, our second episode of the week. This is Game On. Sorry about the intro there. I was about to put that in, and I had a bit of a technical hitch. What I didn't want to do is drag Mr. Carragher back into the studio again, because we seem to be pulling him out every week. So, Millsy, sort that intro out. Anyway, this is, this is Across the Park podcast. It's our second episode of the week, and this is the episode where we focus on trivia and we take a look back in history. Quick mention to our sponsors and affiliates. Massive thank you to our long-standing sponsors, Camper Kings UK. Check them out on social media or on the website. Thank you to our clothing partners, Ver Clothing. Again, they've got a big sale on at the moment, so get across to their website. And a big thank you to BetMate. We'll try and put something out in relation to what we're doing this weekend. We haven't really had a chance to catch up with the guys, but I know they'll be doing plenty during the FA Cup weekend, I think. They'll be throwing them under the bus there. But anyway, without further ado, let's get on with our usual Game On show. So for any new viewers or new listeners, we cover This Week in History. Just disappeared there. Cover This Week in History for both sides. And then we play a game called Who Am I? Well, we do a few different games, but this week it's Who Am I, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. So again, I'll allow Phil to explain that when we get to that section of the show. So we're going to start with a look back in history for the Blues first, Pricey. And we got quite a topical one this week, and that was 4 years ago, almost to the day, was the departure of Ross Barkley. Boyhood Evertonian, product of the academy, obviously a massive talent when he first burst onto the scene, and to a certain extent, a massive talent anyway. We're going to start with, really, before we look at his departure, what were your feelings on Ross Barkley as a player when he broke through, when he established himself, and generally is the part he played at the club?
Well, as a local lad, I was desperate for him to do well. I think most people were when he first came onto the scene. There'd been a bit of, I don't think since Rooney there'd been that talk of somebody coming into the first team before they'd actually made it into the first team. So there was that hype when he got there, and I was desperate for him to do well. And while he was playing for us, he sort of showed some glimpses of what he can do, and he showed how good he can be. But he was just too frustrating for me in the end. I think he just lacked that consistency to be a top player, and I think he's finding that now at Chelsea, and when he went on loan to Aston Villa as well, he's just losing. He hasn't got that, or he hasn't shown that level of consistency to be considered a top player. So he frustrated me more than anything. I'd say always got behind him and always wanted him to do well, but I just don't think he's got it, or I don't think he had it, and that's the issue. Or at least to push on to that top level. I mean, he's a really good Premier League player, but when you're watching him week in, week out, it can get a little bit tiresome. I think when he was sort of not progressing and not hitting them heights that you'd expect him to when he first came onto the scene.
Without putting you on the spot too much, what was your most fun, maybe not fond memory, but what was your kind of your lasting memory of Ross Barkley? Any particular games, any particular moments where you thought, or any particular, sides where he was particularly strong?
The goal against Newcastle away was something that he could do. That was like a brilliant goal, and that shows what he can do. I think he had that little purple patch where when Martinez was there, I think it was, and he had that really good half season. Lukaku, yeah, and he was brilliant for 4 months maybe of the season, 5 months of the season. But me over, and as I say, when he was good, he was really good. But when he wasn't, he was bang average. And I think that's me overriding feeling of Ross Barkley is one of frustration and one of he could have been much more. Even now at Chelsea, like I say, you're looking at him and you're thinking, he can be at that level, that Chelsea level or whatever. But there's something about him that he just hasn't quite got it, or not able to reach it.
Yeah, what about you? Yeah, same with me. Very, very similar, to be honest. And I don't think many Blues would really argue with that. I think when he first came onto the scene, he was fresh. He technically outstanding in terms of his first touch, his ability to turn on the ball. He was a really good striker of a football, wasn't he? And that's one thing that always slightly disappointed with me was his goal return. I thought for a player who gets in the positions that he does so often, and a player who can strike a ball so well, that he should have got more goals. It was almost like he was always trying to put it right in the top corner. Always wanting to hit the postage stamp every time, when it's like, listen, just hit the target and strike the ball well, and you'll score a lot more. And it was like everything about him was always like he was trying to be really precise, which I guess some would argue is maybe the sign of a top class and maybe potentially a world class footballer. But Yeah, for me, he was just missing a few ingredients. One of those was mentality for me. I think that underpins a lot when it comes to consistency, your ability to just be level-headed, not get carried away, just be consistent day in, day out. I've obviously never seen him on the training pitch, but I can imagine he's a bit patchy in training.
Yeah.
I can imagine some days he's on it, some days he's not. There's been a few well-publicised moments during his career where he's took it a little bit too far off the pitch. You know, he's maybe got a bit carried away in pre-season with his drinking and whatever, and he's been pictured so many times on nights out at crucial parts of the season. I think that almost sums him up for me as like why he's not gone to that next level. That move to Chelsea, and we'll touch on that now. That move to Chelsea, you know, taking the emotions away, should have been his big move. That should have been his opportunity to show that that's where he belongs. But like you said, he never really got to that. But sticking on his Everton time, and obviously when he actually left Everton, you know, before we go on to the actual move itself, him and his agent dogged us, didn't he? Let's be honest. He dogged us. Whether you blame his agent, where he's never really actually come out and clarified that situation. But in the cold light of day, and from the information we know, he completely dogged us as a club to get more money from that deal.
100%. It leaves a really sour taste in your mouth, especially when it's one of your own as well. You know, as just the way it happened, it was obvious. It was just obvious what was happening, what was going on, and it did. It made from going to, as I say, wanting him to do well for us to suddenly seeing a different side to him and hang on a minute, what's he playing at here? He's in order to take his own cut, a bigger cut for himself. I think we lost about 15 million on him, didn't we, as a club? So
a bit of context for any of the red listeners or maybe the blue listeners or followers who didn't pick up on that. In the summer of 2018, I think it was, 2017, because he left in 2018. Summer of 2017, Everton accepted a bid of 30 million for Ross Barkley from Chelsea. It's, you know, medical was fine, no issues on that side. And for some reason, last minute, Ross Barkley pulls out of the deal. You know, at the time, I guess there was some fans thinking, great, he wants to stay, he wants to prove himself, he's had a bit of a change of heart. Almost the 1st of January comes and suddenly that deal's back on the table. But now the deal's 15 million because his contract is running out in that summer, and the club pretty much had no say in it and no choice but to sell him. So that deal's suddenly 15 million, and Ross Barkley's wages are almost double what they were going to be. So there's no other way of looking at it as a fan and as a representative of Everton other than the fact that him and his agents have manufactured a situation where they're pocketing a lot more money from that deal, and the club are obviously losing out massively. I
think he did blame it on it, and he blamed it on an injury because he didn't play for us hardly ever in between September and December either. So basically, he was injured or he had niggles, so he was out the team for us. So for those 3 or 4 months, he didn't even play for us. So he sort of stuck with us in order to get himself his recovery on, and then he's gone to Chelsea, as you say, about the 1st, 2nd, whatever it was, of January.
From Everton though, and obviously the news from Everton was that the medical wasn't going to be a problem. Obviously, he may have had an injury or niggling injury, but medicals are not always about. They don't diagnose a pre-existing injury. It's to the club, isn't it? And Chelsea, from their behalf, we're happy with what they'd seen, and we're willing on that basis to proceed with the deal.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not saying his injury was the reason from stopping, but I'm just meaning if he got injured or he had an injury in between. So we didn't even get anything out of him for those 3 months or 4 months. But I think I wasn't bothered. He left apart from the circumstances and being, you know, a little frustrated about how it happened and how he dogged Everton. I wasn't bothered that we lost him as a player, and I think that sums it up for me more than anything else. Is that could I have liked him that much as a player? No, I didn't. He was too frustrating and he was too inconsistent for me to think that he was going to take us to that next level, which I thought at the time we were hoping to get to. So I think the fact that he left and I wasn't too fussed probably sums it up how I felt about him.
Do you know what my feeling is, lads? I think he was born 15 years too late, because when you think back to like the early 90s or the mid 90s and you've got splashes of players like Ravanelli and Juninho, we think back at them players and think they were unbelievable players, but Ravanelli or Juninho, they were the reasons that Middlesbrough were fighting relegation every year, because they were problematic as well as they were magical on the ball and stuff like that. And I think he's one of them players who, if he played in the 90s, you'd watch one match of the day and you'd be like, oh, he's sick, he's a boss player. But in this era, you can't carry players who don't put a shift in or give the ball away in dangerous places and all that.
It's a really good point, Phil. Really good point. And like Pricey said before, his purple patch was under Martinez when he played in the hole, if you like. And that's that little position, isn't it, you're referring to, that Mourinho plays in, where it's like all them flair players want to play there because they don't get any defensive responsibilities. They can give the ball away and it's not the end of the world. But on Match of the Day and in the highlights, they always look like worldies.
Yeah.
It's a really good point. He was never afforded that luxury. And no other clubs afforded them that luxury, by the way. Chelsea haven't given it. Villa didn't give him it, or they tried to for a little bit, but realised that actually, like I said before, there was not enough output. He wasn't getting enough goals. He wasn't getting enough assists. But a really good point. And just before we move on to the Reds, Pricey, and I'll leave this really quick. Would you take him back now? He's obviously available in the window. Would you take him back now?
I'd take him on a short-term loan till the end of the season. I wouldn't want to sign him back now. What about you? And the reason I'm saying that is because I think he'll improve us now, as we are as a team now, till the end of the season. But I wouldn't want him to be our long-term replacement or, our mid to long-term replacement for anyone. I prefer go somewhere else.
Same. I wouldn't mind just doing an old school Bill Kenwright, David Moyes little loan deal where we get him for 3 months and we know we're giving him back. Like we've done with a lot of players, but definitely not a long-term fix. So agrees on that. Okay, so going across to the Reds then, that was our blue week in history. We've got a similar player. Well, not a similar player at all. This player was a lot more popular on the Red side and consistently so. And that was a guy who left. It was 2009 that he left, Terry, Phil?
No, 2014. 15
2009, wasn't it?
6.
Okay, I'm going to hand over now. Completely, even though I suggested it in the first place. The you're going to cover is Daniel Agger.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar only in terms of he had a frustrating career at Liverpool because there's no bones, there's no question about it. Daniel Agger's a top draw player. On the ball, off the ball, attitude, everything was great, but injury prone, weren't he, Terry? And that was the frustrating, lasting theme throughout his 9 years at the club, wasn't it?
Yeah, obviously it was this week in history in 2006 when he signed, and I think the first season that he signed, he only made 4 appearances due to injury. I think he basically carried a back injury right the way through his entire career from very early. Was it a prolapse disc or something? So I think he'd had multiple surgeries on his back, and that really was the sort of the tail of his career at Liverpool, wasn't it? It was, as you say, I don't think there was any questions about his quality. We had an absolute wonder of a left foot. He scored some raspers for us, hitting shots and scoring goals from like 30 yards. And the one against West Ham, it was absolutely piled.
Yeah, that was early on. That indeed, his first season, I think, and he saw a similar one against Blackburn. And don't forget, he scored the Champions League semi-final second leg. Yeah, that was a good goal. Free kick, squared too, and he bent it around the corner, bottom bin.
Yeah, so, I don't think there was any question about his quality. He read the game very well. He was a brilliant centre-back. And as you say, a very loyal and sort of very, very loyal player to Liverpool. But also one that had a boss affinity with the fans. There was nothing about him that you could sort of dislike, was there?
We had the "You'll Never Walk Alone" tattoo. He come from his hometown called Bromby, and he left back to Bromby. There was no other top European teams in between.
Nobody had chances to go. Man City made bids for him a couple of times, if you remember. And
I remember him coming out and saying, I wouldn't do it and all that. That's why we loved him. That's all part of it.
Barcelona came in for him, I think, in around 2011, 2012. So that, if you think about it, well, it might have been a little bit earlier than that, actually, around 2009. But he had chances to go, to at the time, Barcelona were a serious side, and he still didn't go. Do you know what I mean? So there's not much more you can ask from a player, is there? He was comfortable at Liverpool, and where he was in his career. And, I think all the fans...
Sorry, go on.
Well, no, I was just going to say, all the fans, you absolutely love that, don't you? That someone who really gets the ethos of the club, and every time he's on the pitch, he put the work in. He never let us down. There was very few games where you thought, it cost us the game there. Do you know what I mean? There was the one criticism I think you could make about him. He wasn't great in the air. He could be bullied a little bit, because he was quite a wiry frame, wasn't he? He wasn't like your normal sort of stocky centre back. But other than that,
I remember him scoring quite a few headers though. But I know what you're saying.
It was more like, when we go in them games against like Drogba or something like that, proper big unit centre forwards, and you're always at that suspicion, like, he might come off worse here. He's just not quite aggressive enough,
The thing is, he played alongside Agger in his best years for Liverpool. And
that's an interesting partnership, Phil.
That'd be a good partnership. But if he played alongside like Van Dijk or Ipia or something like that, who had that side of the game box, I mean, I think if he was in the Liverpool team now, he would be playing alongside Van Dijk. I think he was that good.
Yeah, well, I guess the only thing on that is, would he, because he, left-footed, wasn't he? Like very sort of left-footed. So you sort of, you think, would he? You get it. But I'd certainly, a fully fit Daniel Agger in his pomp, I'd have him in this Liverpool squad, absolutely, because you know what I mean. He was a top-notch centre back.
I know he was injured a lot, but he still played. He played 232 games. He scored 14 goals, which isn't bad for a defender. So he played 20 games under Rodgers in the season that we nearly won the league.
Yeah, but that was ultimately what ended up sort of sealing his move away, wasn't it? Like from Liverpool, I think he fell out with Rodgers. Like there was some sort of confusion in terms of like what he was asking the defenders to do, and I think, didn't he get made vice captain? Yeah, and he was like starting, and then a couple of weeks later he got bombed. Like, and basically Rodgers wouldn't play him anymore because they had a bit of a fallout, which seems odd.
Yeah. I don't know. It never came out what went on, does it? But I remember the.
Yeah, there was an argument, wasn't there, at a game like where I think it was Swansea, and they had an argument on the pitch, and I think it came out that I think Agger had said to him, like, Rodgers had criticised him in Skirtle, and I think Agger turned around and replied to him. I think it was on the pitch, and basically said, "We're doing exactly what you've asked us to do this week." And Rodgers, like, and that was it. That was the end of him. You know what I mean? He just never really got played then after that. So it was a bit of a strange one, and a bit of a sad way for his career at Liverpool to sort of end. That he got bombed a little bit and then basically retired from football. He was only 31. Which is mad, isn't it?
Yeah, just shy of his testimonial.
But a great player, and one that I think all Liverpool fans look back on fondly, during his time at Liverpool. And as you say, I think he'd certainly have a place in this Liverpool squad. A fully fit Daniel Agger was an asset. And I certainly, look back at his time at Liverpool as a good one, really. Despite
he scored 14 goals as well, Phil. I mean, I can only remember 2 or 3. They weren't bad, were they? Most of them.
No, they were all absolutely rocket.
And he scored a Zola.
He scored one at the top, didn't he? It was like miles out, where he's like kind of taking it out, like he's playing out from the back, and he's taking another touch and another touch.
I think that was West Ham. Yeah. He hit a few good free kicks, and he even scored, one of them Zola flicks. So the boy had ability. He was a proper player.
Good player.
Yeah. But that sums it up, doesn't it?
Okay, well, brilliant. Again, any thoughts from anyone? If any of us as listeners or viewers have any ideas, anything pops up in your timeline, then feel free to drop us a message, put a comment in here if you want. Any comments you've got about those 2 particular memories would be great as well. We always welcome that. So moving on to the last part of our show is Who Am I? So I'll allow you to explain the rules, Phil, to the listeners and viewers.
Yeah, we play it every week. I think everyone's got it now, but it's just, I give 5 clues for a Liverpool player, 5 clues for an Everton player, and you've got to guess the player, basically. So I'll start with the blue player this week and give the Blues a chance to take a lead. So clue number 1, this player signed for David Moyes for around £6 million.
Okay. £6 million. Well, 6 million, just it's good to have a little bit of a chat about, obviously, the listeners. I'm not going to give too many clues away. I think just thinking about David Moyes' time, 6 million was a weird figure. He didn't often spend that type of money, David Moyes, did he? He was either a kind of freebie or he's spending like 10 to 15 million on like a big sign.
Yeah.
So that's at 6 million. It seems like a very unusual figure for David Moyes to spend.
Okay.
Obviously, the time might give us a bit of a clue. Go on, Phil. I'm sure that's going to come next.
Okay, yeah. I'm worrying if I'm giving you too much of a clue now. This player is a World Cup runner-up.
World Cup runner-up. So we're talking about, obviously, one of the big sides potentially in the world.
So who's come runner-up in it lately? Germany, did they?
Italy have been runners-up a few times.
France. Spain did never come runners-up, did they?
No, he's been in that. Germany must have been runners-up once, I think. Did Brazil beat them in the final? Oh, on the David Moyes era. So let's think the World Cups then. So
2006 was Italy.
2010.
No, 2006 Italy.
2010, didn't he? Germany were the finalists. Weren't they? Or was that the Euros? That was Euros, that weren't it? 2008.
2010.
Yeah, so Spain won it 2008 and 2010, didn't he? The Euros and the World Cup.
Next clue, Phil.
Okay, then. He signed for Everton from Atletico Madrid.
Oof.
He wasn't there long, though.
Okay, that's horrible, isn't it?
Where is he going from?
He wasn't there long for.
I was thinking Arteta, but I don't think Spain.
No, it's Sociedad you got Arteta from.
Oh yeah.
And it was about like, wasn't far off that amount. I think it was like 3.75 million we got Arteta for. Oh no, yeah, it was around that. It wasn't far off 6 million actually. Atletico
Madrid.
The next clue will be the big one.
Go on.
You ready for it? Yeah. Okay. This player was a product of the famous Ajax Youth Academy.
I'm struggling, yeah. I know it.
Was it Heidegger?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shout it out.
Sorry.
It's all right. The final clue would have been he was Everton's player of the season, 2011-12. Seems like he was a good player for you.
Obviously, we're not going to take too long to not look back in history, but yeah, he was a little bit like, not to that level, but a bit like the way they just described Daniel Agger. He was kind of like, he had abilities, didn't he? I think the position was a problem for him.
Yeah.
He wasn't sure whether he was a centre-back or he was a defensive mid. He had patches. Certainly wasn't as like consistent or to the quality of Daniel Agger, but he was a little bit like that. He was quite popular with the fans, wasn't he? Because he was he got stuck in. He has a bit of quality. He always wore his heart on his sleeves, didn't he? He was a bit of a leader as well.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, when he was good, he was really good, I think. But that's like too inconsistent, and yeah, his position was definitely an issue because he got caught out of position loads when he was a centre back as well. That
final against Spain is what you were alluding to, wasn't it? Holland, where he played for Holland, didn't he? It was the final. De Jong kicked what's his name off the pitch, Iniesta. Yeah, that was volleys everywhere. Nice one, Phil. Good on that.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to Liverpool. So they got it on the fourth clue, Terry. So this player made 41 appearances for Liverpool, scoring 8 goals. So didn't play a lot, basically.
Yeah, 41 is a good return, though. So must be playing like an attacking mid or probably even a forward.
Okay. So this player's won 3 league titles in another league, 3 European Cups and an FA Cup.
Wow. I know who it is. Well, is he? And can I get? Yeah. He's from a Scandinavian type country, isn't he? Beginning.
No, he's not actually. No,
he's not.
No, not the right player there.
Okay.
So what's he won? What's he won? 3 league titles and what?
3 league titles, but not in England. But he's won 3 European Cups and an FA Cup.
Gotta be him. Oh no, it's not the FA Cup. He hasn't won an FA Cup.
Okay, I think I might know, but
I was thinking of Yari Littman, by the way.
No, played more than 40 games, Littman.
Yeah, Terry. In 2004, he scored 9 goals in 12 Champions League games, helping him to be named European Striker of the Season.
I think I know who it is, but obviously
it is not. I think
can't shout it out, can I?
Okay, then. Question for
Teddy, give us a clue that makes us know.
Spanish.
Yes, he's Spanish. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Murray.
Yeah. When Rafa signed this player, Gerrard was quoted as saying, "You know, you're not taking a risk with this player." And the final clue is, although this player's class was never in doubt in red, his 18 months at Liverpool were undoubtedly a disappointment as he struggled to break into the first team.
Yeah, I got that.
Did he play more views then? Was he injured?
No, he went. He just couldn't score, you know.
By the way,
he just didn't really adjust to the league very well. His style and stuff wasn't really suited to the way Rafa played and what we were asking him to do. And it just didn't really work.
You could see he was boss, though, couldn't you? But he missed a lot of sitters as well, and it just wouldn't happen for him. It just weren't happening.
he wasn't blessed with great pace, and the way that we played under Rafa and stuff, he was probably used to playing in just a more sedate league, a little bit slower, a little bit more time, and in a different system, what was creating loads of chances. We weren't. It just didn't really work out.
By the way, Terry, you said Littman played well more games than that. He played less.
Did he? I thought he played more than 40 games.
I'm not sure he played that many games. He only played 26 games, scored 5.
Wow.
Similar. It was them games and the European Cup that made me think it might be him, but then 3 European Cups was obviously a bit.
I'd have lost money on that. Would you have thought Littman had played more than 26 games?
Yeah, I think as Morientes is someone who basically didn't play for Liverpool, and Littman was like a key Liverpool player.
Exactly, bizarre. But yeah, I got on clue 2 then. So is that a win for the Reds?
I'm not sure I'm giving you clue 2. You can probably have clue 3, like.
Still a win, isn't it? But I did get on clue 2.
Yeah, you definitely won. Like, he was sitting on the fence.
It might have been something.
He's the clue here as well.
What?
Price, you had to try and tease it out here as well.
I would have said it on clue 2.
It's an awkward one, isn't it? It is an awkward one. We might have to think about this game so we can actually answer and prove that we've won. But
sure, there must be some features now that we've got 1,000 subscribers. Put in there where we can throw like little comments in there or something that the viewers can see. Might have to do one of these live one time. That'd be good. The listeners can tune in. So again, that's probably a perfect note to say. We said on the last show, thanks to everyone who's helped us to get to 1,000 subscribers. It's now been confirmed and we can do live shows. There's loads of little other features as well that we need to get our heads around that we're now able to access. But the live shows was a big one for us. You may have noticed on our social media as well that we made a comment about a certain media agency that we're trying to advertise on our show via Google, via YouTube. Just to make it clear, we can't control the ads that YouTube throw in between. As most of you might be aware, it's like targeted ads that they look at what you look at on different websites and try and choose which companies or people to put forward to use. But we noticed that a certain organisation that no one in this city at Liverpool wants to be attached with, we're trying to advertise. So we can block certain companies or organisations from advertising. So if there's anyone that pops up on your timeline that you think is not in keeping with our show that we should be trying to avoid, then please let us know and we'll discuss it. And in that particular instance, there was no doubt that we were going to block their attempts to be involved or associated with our show. So thanks to the listener or viewer who messaged the website. And again, whether it's negative feedback or positive feedback, we welcome any feedback. So again, that's a good example of how, it wasn't a positive message, but we were glad to get it and we reacted on it. Anyone who wants to have a look at what I'm talking about, have a look on our social media. I just don't want to give this certain organisation any more exposure than they get themselves. So anyway, I think that's it from Game On. Thanks, Phil, for your efforts on getting them two really good ones this week. Any comments on them, please let us know. Any ideas you've got for the show, please let us know. We're always open to that. And enjoy the third round of the FA Cup. I love this weekend. Great weekends of football. And hopefully some giant killings, but none on the blue side, please. We don't need that. All right, cheers, everyone. Have a good weekend and catch you all next week.